other one?
Yes. Right. The other one, she's done the running.
Oh, no! Mike Alpha, we need ambulance. Senior officers to the scene. We've got 2 possible fatals.
These twins took to the busiest road in all of England. What motivated them is a complete mystery.
To see that in front of you, it's traumatic for any person. It's not something that they teach you when you go to police officer school.
However, just when they thought nothing weirder could happen, a bizarre crime would completely escalate the case. Police would be baffled by one of the most unusual and mysterious stories. How did the chaos start on the highway? Who are these reckless women? And what is the crime they are about to commit? This is the story of the psychotic twins, Ursula and Sabina Eriksson. The sisters were captured by highway security cameras where we see a strange movement. Sabina enters the highway and is hit by a car, causing a traffic jam that endangered dozens of people. The drivers themselves called the police and the highway patrol, who arrived with television cameras because they were filming for the show Traffic Cops. When the patrol arrived, the women were calmly standing on the side of the road with only minor injuries. It looked like everything was under control, with the sisters calmly smoking a cigarette and chatting with the officers. But suddenly and without warning, Ursula ran towards the cars again and was rammed by an 184-pound truck. Amidst the commotion and with the officers calling for help, Sabina also rushes onto the road, and a speeding car rammed her through the air, hitting her head-on with the windshield, causing the woman to lose consciousness. Both twins now lay on the asphalt of the busiest freeway in England. Ursula's legs were crushed, but miraculously she was conscious.
Oh, I recognize you. I know you're not real.
Shh! Hit your head, calm down. We are the police. We are the police.
The woman was in a state of complete paranoia and was resisting help, even though her own life was in danger and she had a mortal wound.
You're hurt. Calm down. Calm down. Calm down. You're hurt. Calm down.
In the meantime, despite the violence of the attack, Sabina regained consciousness after 15 minutes, but woke up under an intense psychosis just like her sister.
They're gonna steal your organs.
It's okay, my love. It's all
I'm
right.
trying to make sure you're okay.
After struggling with the police officer, she attacked her, managed to free herself, and ran back into traffic. So she had to be sedated by paramedics. A superhuman force had possessed her, and it took 6 people to restrain her.
Call the police! We are the police!
So then we're thinking all sorts. Is she drunk? Is she on drugs?
This was a first suspicion that could explain how they managed to get up again and again, in spite of having their bodies completely wrecked. However, this would be ruled out after the tests, so other theories began to be generated.
Well, 136 if she is.
Well, she needs to be, but if nothing else, get on the carriageway and
A 136 is a clause in the Mental Health Act, which implies that detainees must be assessed for possible psychiatric disorder. The twins are taken separately to different hospitals and placed in police custody. But just when you thought this story was already completely crazy, a series of subsequent events will make this case even more bizarre.
We say always in Sweden that an accident rarely comes alone. Usually at least once more follows.
This story is still far from over. The madness and mystery of these twins will unfortunately go too far. Are you ready to be the witness? It all began on May 16, 2008, when Ursula, who lived in the US, went to visit her twin Sabina in Ireland. After an alleged argument Sabina had with her husband, the next morning, and for mysterious reasons, the sisters boarded a ferry to Liverpool, England. Then they took a bus to London, but late in the journey, the driver and passengers began to notice that the twins were behaving very strangely. They were particularly overprotective of their handbags and were constantly looking around in a paranoid manner.
My main concern was that there was a bomb in the bag.
So, the driver decided not to either let them continue the trip on the bus. It was at that moment that Ursula and Sabina made the decision to walk to London. They took the M6, the busiest freeway in England, in the dangerous maneuver that ended in the shocking accident we saw at the beginning. But who are these women? Little is known about the lives of twins Sabina and Ursula Eriksson. They were born in Sweden on November 3, 1967. They grew up in Sun in the Värmland region. Both had a normal and uneventful life until the fateful day when they decided to throw themselves onto the road. However, this would only be the beginning of a macabre story. After spending a night in custody for the incident on the road, Sabina was released and wanted to know about her sister's whereabouts. She began wandering the streets looking for a hotel when she encountered two men, Glenn Hollingshead and Peter Molloy, who were walking Glenn's dog. Sabina told them she was looking for a place to sleep, and Glenn offered to put her up for the night and help her call from home to the hospitals to find her sister. However, Sabina starts acting very strange at Glenn's house.
She seemed quite open and warm, but then in the quiet moments, she was getting quite paranoid.
She was behaving as if someone was following her, suddenly getting up and constantly looking out the window. The paranoia was such that she would offer them both cigarettes, but when they put them in their mouth, she would take them away because she claimed they were poisoned.
I responded a little bit unsettled by this. I'm looking at Glenn for reassurance, and he's like, it's all right, it's all right.
When Glenn assured Peter that she was just a woman who needed help, Peter decided to go home, tired of Sabina's attitude, but he never imagined that this would be the last time he would see his friend. The next morning, Glenn started calling his brother to help him find Ursula, and Sabina was completely calm. Glenn went to ask his neighbor for some tea bags, who was washing his car outside his house. He told him that as soon as he was finished with the car, he would go and drop the bags off. But a few minutes later, Glenn comes out of his house, staggering and covered in blood. He said that Sabina attacked him and asked him to take care of her dog, just seconds before he lost his life from 4 wounds inflicted with a kitchen knife. The neighbor, completely bewildered, ran home to call the police, but Sabina quickly fled. The woman again wandered back onto a local road, and as she walked, she banged her head with a hammer she had taken from Glenn's house. That's when a man saw her from his car and stopped to help her.
Her hair was like matted with blood. She started getting angry. She was kind of grunting at me.
When he tried to take the hammer away from her so she wouldn't keep hurting herself, Sabina pulls out a kind of shingle from her pocket.
She hit me over the head, and then she ran to the overpass, and there's like a 40-foot.
Sabina jumps onto the freeway again, fracturing her skull and ankles. Josh manages to call the police, and miraculously, once again, Sabina survived and was rushed to the hospital. Once she was released after months of recovery and taken into police custody, Sabina faced trial for ending Glenn Hollingshead's life. When she was questioned about everything that had happened, from her escape from Ireland, the abandonment of her children, the incident on the road to what happened to Glenn, Sabina had only one answer: no comment. She simply kept silent. When her medical records arrived from Sweden, authorities saw that she showed no history of any mental disorder or criminal activity. Sabina was a completely sane person and an exemplary citizen. Surprisingly, and with this information, the woman's defense attorney claimed that Sabina was a secondary victim of Ursula. According to the defense, her twin sister had passed on her insanity to her by a strange psychiatric syndrome called folie à deux, or madness of two, also called shared psychosis or shared delusional disorder. It manifests itself in hallucinations, paranoias, and delusions that make those who suffer from it live in an illusory reality that is shared or transmitted between people who are very close. That's why it's normal for it to occur among family members, as in the case of the Eriksson twins. One person always has the original psychosis, in this case Ursula, and it manifests itself differently in the infected person, depending on his or her personality. In Sabina, Ursula's domination over her caused her to become infected with her psychotic episode. which is called folie imposée, that is, a person who imposes madness on another. However, Sabina never mentioned Ursula or blamed her for his actions.
She just refused to talk about it. The trouble is, you don't have any data about Ursula, and so you've only got half a story, really.
Sabina pleaded guilty to the charges, and in 2009, the judge decided to also find her guilty of taking Glenn's life, but with diminished responsibility because she accepted the defense argument that Sabina was legally insane and experienced a moment of psychosis brought on by her sister and was not acting on her own behalf. But unusually, the video of them on the road was not used in court as evidence. They also argued that at the time of the trial, she was fully recovered from the psychosis.
This was a very unusual case. The fact that the defendant was clearly mentally ill at the time of the offence and yet was not mentally ill when she was sentenced, in my experience, I'd never come across that.
If the correct clinical evaluations had been done, Sabina would never have wandered the streets. She would never have met Glenn and would never have ended his life. Once Ursula recovered, she was released as she was not charged of any crime and immediately left for the United States. Sabina, for her part, was sentenced to 5 years in Bronzefield Women's Prison in Surrey, England, and subsequently released in 2011.